on 5.16, which we should iterate to all of our viewers out there. So that is the newest patch. In case you guys haven't read the patch notes, a lot of tanky Juggernaut items. What do you think is really going to happen here?
Yeah, as you just mentioned before, there's actually so many things on the table that have been changed quite recently by Riot in the new patch 5.16. For one, there's the changes to both to 4 champions in terms of Mordekaiser, Garen, Darius, and Skarner. So those might be banned away, seeing as it's Mordekaiser actually being banned away. Those champions are very strong in their own right, and the changes only making them even stronger in their roles. What do you think will be the other bans in terms of strong solo queue picks here, Shadow Warrior?
Oh, well, it's only been about a day and a bit into this new patch, so we're not really certain who's really shining here. They had these items on last patch, but it was sort of like a stealth entrance, like the terminology that they used on the patch preview. So nobody really knew that it was on live, and nobody really picked it up. I think I saw about one game with it. I was like, "What? Are you cheating? Did I sign up for black market brawlers?" But it's definitely an interesting concept that they brought in here with all of these tanks who can get in, do a lot of damage, and if necessary, get out. I'm not too certain whether it's going to go into the tank meta or not, but all of these bans coming out, at the very least for the University of South Australia on the blue side today, they're very tanky, and it's a top lane sort of oriented ban with maybe a Mordekaiser bot lane that we have been discussing a little bit. Not too certain about that though.
Yeah, as you mentioned before, a lot of the Juggernaut champions being taken away here. Mordekaiser actually seeing some play in the bot lane recently because of the changes to his XP sharing, which is extremely strong in terms of leveling. But both Skarner and Darius still being left up here, so we'll see if the team of Charles Darwin University, the engineers, will pick up either of those champions. But a lot of the bans going into the top lane and maybe taking that Nautilus for the top lane here. What are your thoughts, Shadow Warrior?
It could either be a Nautilus top or a Nautilus support. I don't think we've seen too much of the Titan in the jungle as of recently, as of these patches, so it's either one of those two. It'll be interesting to see how he interacts, but yeah, unfortunately we won't get a chance to see Mordekaiser. Interesting that you touched on Skarner though, because his numbers recently have looked extremely strong, so I don't think it's going to be picked up by Charles Darwin University, which might pass it along to the University of South Australia. Maybe, maybe not. I don't think it's necessarily enough time for Succubus to have picked him up. And Skarner's not really a champion that you can just pick up in a day, especially with the new changes. So yeah, maybe he'll just default onto an Elise, who has been very strong in the recent patches.
Yeah, Elise actually a champion that isn't banned away and has seen a lot of competitive play recently. Changes to the Q have been made in the recent patch, which is making that noxious bite, the noxious bite a slightly toned it back from its previous strength, but still a very strong champion in terms of the mobility and utility in the jungle, because the Cocoon now 1.6 second stun at level 1, which is extremely strong compared to the 0.8 which it was before. But what do you make of these bans before we go into the picks on the side of engineers?
On the side of engineers, it just looks like they don't want anybody who can really burst people down. So obviously the Fizz and the LeBlanc banned away, and that Vayne is a personalized ban towards Irelia bot, who has played a lot of Vayne in solo queue. And as we all know, if you just go about even in lane as Vayne, then you can really come out ahead sometime in late game. So it's very nice they took him away from Irelia bot.
Yeah, and looking over to the picks that we've started to see from the side of Southern Australia, we have the Nautilus, Elise, and the Orianna pickup, which is a lot of teamfight CC, I feel. A lot of very strong teamfight presence, but also strong in the skirmishes. A lot of pick potential there with Shadow Warrior.
I'm just waiting to see what the bot lane's going to be for the University of South Australia to really round out this comp, because right now we got a lot of single target with Nautilus and with Elise, and then you sort of just got this Orianna there who's going to maybe get a good shockwave off onto Charles Darwin University's team. It doesn't really look necessarily complete, so I will have to wait to see what this bot lane is going to be in order to sort of determine what sort of strategy they're going to go for. Maybe an Alistar, maybe just a bold delivery system, an Alistar, or they can't pick a Malphite because it's taken by the engineers, but yeah, like I was saying, maybe that. Or a Thresh, who can pull him into his own team.
Yeah, I actually like that you mentioned the Alistar pick up there, because Alistar extremely strong frontline support. I mean, they've toned back the projectile speed, if you will, on his W, so made it a bit more opportunity to outplay, but still have hovering the Thresh here, might pick up something like a Jinx in the AD carry position because something they can hyper carry, extremely safe in the back line, especially with such a big front line that the team of Southern Australia does have right here. Hovering the Callista actually, which is quite interesting. We haven't seen much Callista play post nerfs to her passive, making it 90% of her AD, and also not being able to reset your jump on your Q. So interesting pickup into what seems like a Graves lane. And looking to the side of Engineers here, what do you make of their team comp?
Their team comp is definitely, sort of all or nothing. Everybody's going to go in and everybody's just going to lock down the enemy team. So it's really, if they go in at an incorrect moment, then they're just going to fall on their face. But having said that, they've got just so much AoE to deal with the University of South Australia. Having just quickly talked about the University of South Australia's bot lane, though, the Callista Thresh, incidentally two of the most, I'd say, strong champions in their own respective rights, and put them together, there's such a strong lane. You can just put a ball onto Thresh and then throw Thresh straight into the enemy team, and then you just have a ball delivery system. So that's a really strong combo going on there, but there's a lot of combo on the other side, so it really will... I think we really have to look at laning phase to see how the fights are going to go in this game, because there's a lot of volley from both sides.
Yeah, as you mentioned, laning phase is going to be extremely important in this game. A lot of the lanes come down to a skill matchup. I actually had jump going real briefly there, but the the Thresh Callista lane versus Braum Graves, which would be an extremely hard lane for either team. One mistake, one slip up, and kills might go over to either. But what do you make of this Callista nerf compared to what she was before? Do you think she's still as strong as she was?
She still is strong. I still do believe that. I think Riot's just putting more of an emphasis on the Runans build as opposed to an AD heavy build, so Bloodthirster Rush might not necessarily be the correct thing to do on her anymore. But if you just ignore that, if you just take a look at the amount of damage that she does on her Rend, it's still super strong. There were no nerfs to that, there were only nerfs to her passive, so she still does have the capabilities to do a lot of damage in teamfights with the Rend.
Yeah, definitely strong in the right hands, and also, as you mentioned before, Thresh, an extremely heavy playmaking support there in the right hands. We saw last week the team of Monash A using it to great effect in this series, and actually coming out on top there. So we'll see a little bit of play by them today, but Thresh, if you can land those hooks, death sentences, and also save each other. Aurelia can use that Fate's Call and also the Lantern between each other to save each other in a bad situation. So an extremely safe lane there, but very strong by the side of Southern Australia to actually take away the Nautilus, which is seen as one of the counters to Callista, if you will. But Braum Graves, I have to feel that's a very strong kill lane if they land one of those concussive blows.
They definitely do have to scale early, because Graves, and really for that matter any other ADC who relied heavily on auto attacks, obviously Graves does have a lot of casting abilities, but any ADC who really relied on the crits got nerfed this patch because of the Randuin's changes, how crits do less damage now onto tanks. So Callista's a really good pickup, as we were talking about before in this comparison, because she doesn't really crit. She doesn't build crit, and she relies more on her AD and attack speed scaling on her Rend. So I think that that's a really strong ADC this patch because of the crit nerfs.
Definitely, and as you mentioned, the changes to a lot of items, they've changed Thornmail, they've toned it back quite a bit, they've made Frozen Heart, which, seen as one of the most efficient tank items, being toned back as well. But in general, a lot of the armor items have been buffed in terms of giving, the amount of armor they give, and also the MR items, so it's a soft nerf to ADCs across the board, but Callista, one of those ADCs that kind of bypass that, seeing as she goes for more of the Rend build, trying to stack those spears inside of the enemies and just trying to get a lot of damage via that path. But I think we'll see so obviously they've picked, but in this series today, do you think we'll see a lot of assassins and those kind of champions, seeing as they've nerfed some of those big counter assassin items?
We will really just have to see. We're into the early days of this patch. I don't even think anybody who's played on it for an extensive period of time really knows what's going on at the moment. So, I don't know. It really will have to be something that we take a look at. But I definitely am interested in seeing how these teams deal with the changes, especially in the top lane, the Malphite versus Nautilus matchup, because there are just so many different build paths that tanks have now, into the armor, into the health. Yeah. It's going to be absolutely crazy going into mid-game to late-game team fights.
Yeah, most definitely. But top lane, I kind of feel it's just going to be a bit of a farm lane. I mean, Nautilus and Malphite in their own right, very tanky and very hard to kill. And if they both opt for something like a Doran Shield start or even a Flask start, I mean, it's going to be really hard to kill each other. It might be a bit of a wet noodle fight, but it's going to be real integral for these junglers to try put some pressure on the map. But at least a very early game jungler compared to her counterpart, which is the Shyvana. So how do you think that matchup's going to work out in this game?
Oh, Elise is just going to gank early, which really will have to put Charles Darwin University's laners on the back foot. You know, they have to play really defensively. They have to invest a lot more into wards. But if they do that, then they will have this Shyvana jungle just be an absolute monster in the mid to late game because she has all of these abilities to either carry or to tank for a team. I mean, you have one of two paths. You can either go Devourer if you want to do more damage, or you can go Cinderhulk if you just need that bit more tank on your team. So if Charles Darwin University can just stay even, ward their lanes, and make sure that they don't get ganked, I think Shyvana can be a real big monster going into the mid game team fights.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, the thing we have to mention actually is that notice Charles Darwin picked a lot of winning lanes. The Braum Graves, a very tanky lane, very safe, can farm away to that 15-minute mark, and so can Lissandra against something like Orianna who wants to farm up. But the thing is, if they fall too behind in these lanes, and Elise ganks these lanes and applies a lot of early pressure, gets some kills across, it's going to be extremely hard for the side of Darwin to try claw back because their lane's obviously going to be winning, so Shyvana does have the opportunity to farm away that Devourer. I mean, a good Shyvana can get that Devourer around the 16 towards 18-minute mark, which is one of the fastest clears, actually. They get that save Devourer if they do choose to go it. But Shyvana, a jungler you pick for objective control, she can take Dragons and Baron extremely fast, so we'll see what Nona Boost and his team can actually do to try work around that Shyvana.
Yeah, this Shyvana's going to put him onto the back foot, but they did pick winning lanes, just as you said. So it really will be up to them to make sure they don't fall behind in lane, make sure they farm up a lot, and make sure they give Nonabuz the space he needs in order to scale. Because the worst thing that can happen to this Shyvana at the moment is Succubus on Elise goes and ganks a few lanes, doesn't quite succeed in that, and then he decides to go into the enemy jungle and start counter jungling, and that really will be stressful for Nonabu's early game. So it really will be up to them to make sure that doesn't happen, to keep Elise out of their own jungle.
Something we've actually failed to mention so far is that both teams actually very AoE teamfight reliant in terms of having some potential wombo. I mean, you mentioned before the Thresh with the Kalista deck can use the Fate's Call to get in, with Siren Kiss gonna use that Dissonance and also the Shockwave to try to get a wombo combo there. Very good engage, very good path in, but it's going to be important to see which team has the gold advantage because side of Engineers has a gold advantage. Malphite with that unstoppable force, coupled with Lissandra's Frozen Tomb going in there. I mean, even Graves with the explosive shot, and also Braum with his ult. I mean, it's so much AoE CC that can just shred through the side, of South Australia here.
Yeah, this is just so volatile. I think on the side of South Australia, the Tea Party, they have a lot of disengage, especially with the Thresh and sort of with the Kalista Ultimate. They have a little bit of disengage, but with Charles Darwin University, it is just all in. They either succeed or they fail, but they go all in. So, you know, it really will be up to them to be making the plays, especially with the Malphite Shyvana hard dive combo. I think this is going to be a really explosive game to watch.
I think it's really important for the side of South Australia, as we're loading in here, just going to mention quickly, that the Thresh needs to put down that box and try to disengage, and then look for a re-engage with that dredge line, with that hook, to try get in there and try hook away the carries, because they have a lot of pick potential, as I mentioned. They have the dredge line, they have the cocoon, they have the Thresh hook, and if they can get any of these things onto maybe a high priority target such as Lissandra or even Aurelia, sorry, not Aurelia, but Xenomorph onto that Graves, it's going to do a lot of damage, and it's going to be really hard for the side of Charles Darwin to try claw back if they've used a lot of their engaging ultimates such as the Unstoppable Force and that Frozen Tomb.
Oh, you definitely said it, yeah. Especially with the dredge line on Nautilus. If he can land it onto one of the high priority targets, especially like you just said, Xenomorph, then that just opens up a straight line for Slazer on Thresh to sort of hook him into his team. And at that point, that's really enough CC to pretty much kill him. And if it's not, then you've got the Cocoon from Succubus. it doesn't look like a particularly great day for Xenomorph this game.
Yeah, playing a short-range ADC as well, it's gonna be extremely hard for him to position correctly. I mean, a Nautilus can just put down that ultimate, and it's gonna be, you can't sidestep it, you can't QSS it. It's just gonna have to eat that CC, and if they can walk in and get in position that can kind of capitalize on that CC, it's gonna be really hard for Xenomorph and his team to try to peel him back. I mean, they have the Braum ultimate and the Braum shield stand behind me. But still, I mean, that's not much to kind of peel such a short-range ADC. He's going to be able to do a lot of the damage he wants to get across in this team fight.
No, it definitely isn't. So it'll be up to Jim God on Malphite and Nonobrews on Shyvana to hard dive South Australia's backline, especially the Callista and the Orianna, and to really wreck them up a little bit so then they give some breathing room onto Xenomorph. So even if he gets CC'd, he doesn't necessarily get 100-0'd. Especially with Gray's passive, if you can just give him a little bit of time, I think he can survive. But if he just gets all in, then there's so much peak potential on South Australia's side.
Yeah, but both teams actually have junglers that can kind of take a lead and run away with the game. I mean, Succubus on that at least, you get a slight lead, can go for that Runeglaive. Actually, something we have to mention, he might go for the Runeglaive if he gets hit, but maybe also opt for that Cinderhulk build, which is still extremely strong. I mean, at least can go Cinderhulk into the Rylai's and still do so much damage with those percentage damage on her, both her Q, spider form and human form, and also just pick with her E. But Shyvana also, if she gets an early sated or just an early devourer and start farming away, from the 8-minute mark, then she's gonna do so much work on the map and help her team.
Yeah, like you said, in professional regions especially, we've seen Elisa's go more the tanky route with the Cinderhulk into, I think, a Sidestone for early objective control and early vision control. But if Succubus gets really ahead, and by really ahead I mean, gets 3 or 4 ganks off really successfully, at the very least blowing summoners off them, then yeah, he might just go for a Runeglaive, and that would just really snowball his damage into the mid-game.
What kind of starts are we expecting here? Do we want to see both teams just kind of fan out, maybe a late invade, scout out the lane swap? Is a lane swap going to be happening in this game, or just standard starts, standard 2v2 lanes? And what are your thoughts on the start right now?
Well, given that South Australia's bot lane of Callista Thresh isn't necessarily the strongest early game combo, it would be in their advantage to lane swap, but it's not necessarily terrible into a Graves Braum, because while they have a lot of burst and while they can get a lot of CC down onto Callista, Thresh can just step backwards a little bit and lantern around into safety pretty much every single time. So it's not a necessarily terrible lane, especially seeing as Nonobrews is on a farming jungler like Shyvana. I don't think that they'll need to lane swap, because there's just... without a jungler there, it's not as much kill potential as you think there would be, so it's a safe enough lane that they can just go 2v2 bot lane.
What I'd actually like to see here is, seeing as Succubus on that at least is an extremely easy jungler in terms of has a lot of health at the end of the jungle, having his spiders to tank it up. I'd like to see a solo red and give the bot lane Krugs for the side of Southern Australia, not Engineers Tea Party, but opting against it, actually just going to leash and walk to lane. But what are your thoughts on Slazzer going for the coin opposed to the Relic Shield? Is that going to, hinder their sustain in this lane?
Well, it definitely will take down the sustain, and that might be a huge issue, like we said, going into the early burst of Xenomorph. Personally, I would really question that, especially going into a Graves, but, that's what was picked, and, well, it doesn't really put pressure onto Slazzer to necessarily last hit with Thresh, which might not be his strong suit, but going onto the side of Xenomorph, if they can get some poke down onto Aurelia bot on Callista, just some really hard poke that sticks, he's not going to be able to heal it up, necessarily.
Yeah, but one positive of having that coin that we should mention is that once he gets the Talisman of Ascension, there's going to be a lot of disengage or even engage with the active on that, so maybe opting for that later game scaling in terms of that item. But what do you make of the Nautilus start on Useless Senpai going for the Ruby Crystal start opposed to something like a Shield, Doran Shield, or something like a Crystalline Flask, which Demgod has opted for?
Well, it's a brave start. I'll give him that. It is a very brave start. But given that he's into a Malphite, and given that Shyvana jungle isn't somebody who's typically known to gank early, he might just be rushing whatever tank item he wants, whether that's a Randuin's or maybe even a Dead Man's Plate this patch. But, there's not a lot of damage coming out of Malphite. He can sort of roll a rock at you, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, it's not a lot of damage coming out. I think that it's a good enough build for the useless senpai, because Nonobus can't really gank, and Gym God can't really put down a lot of damage.
Interesting point you just mentioned, actually. Deadman's Plate, an item I've seen a lot in solo queue recently, and also a lot of other tank items. I mean, the Titanic Hydra, which is the new kind of tank-esque Ravenous Hydra, and actually a hook coming through here onto CJK, just gonna have some back and forth poke, you know, let them know who's boss in the lane. Very good hook there by side of Slazzer, but yeah, Titanic Hydra, what do you make of this item? The kind of tank Ravenous Hydra, if you will.
Ooh, I really will have to see how it goes. I don't think either of these two champs this game are going to build it. You know, not Nautilus and probably not Malphite. Maybe Shyvana can build it. I don't think it's going to be in this particular game, though. So, it's not really at the forefront of mind. As another hook comes out onto CJK, and bot lane has a little bit of a scuffle. We were talking about how the side of Charles Darwin University definitely had the early game in this bot lane, but they seem to be taking quite a bit of damage proportional to this.
Yeah, Slazzer and Aurelia bot actually have a lot of damage with that W passive, and also, actually a bit of back and forth going on. CJK gonna taking it quite low. Slazzer taking the hook across, maybe a kill coming across there. Ren stack has not been popped yet, and still going in. I mean, both teams actually, gank going across onto top lane as well. Useless Senpai, maybe in a switch on the way, but not actually having it, and First Blood going across to Nona Booze, and quite uncharacteristical there for the Shyvana jungle. I mean, ganking before before Elise even ganks. I mean, what happened there?
Oh wow, a flash onto mid lane, and Neku gets taken down there, but Succubus comes in for the counter gank. I don't think that this is enough damage necessarily to take this down. Unfortunately, Succubus is a little bit too late, but yes, as you just said, this is very uncharacteristic of a Shyvana jungle. And I think that's sort of the gamble that the useless Senpai on Nautilus was playing, and unfortunately lost.
I think you just lagged real quickly there. I'll just take over what you were already saying.
A Ruby Crystal first. He thought that maybe there just wasn't going to be any damage coming.
Actually, hook going across onto CJK there by Slazzer, and Aurelia bot and Slazzer doing their best job to establish some lane dominance here, and kind of weird to see them push up so far against, you know, Shyvana's showing that she's going to gank and do her best at kind of applying some early game pressure here, but just back and forth going down the bot lane. Slazzer and Aurelia bot doing their best job at establishing some lane dominance, and it's going to use those sentinels to try scout out. I mean, they have a ward there quite close through the river, but actually not much, you know, happening in that bot lane, just a farm lane, but Aurelia bot actually up 17 farm, which is, you know, quite surprising seeing as Braum Graves is such a strong lane.
Well, it is surprising, but Kalista does have the last hit assist with her Ren. She just needs to order pretty much any minion she wants a couple of times, and at any time that she chooses, she can just pull out her Ren, and she can do a lot of damage to it and execute it, as well as the fact that Slazzer can help her last hit with, of course, the W pass for applying onto minions.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, want to see, actually, gank going across here by Succubus, but a very good cocoon there, actually stopping Nesku CYA on that Lissandra using her E to get out of there. So very good cocoon there, and that's just showing the strength of the cocoon. I mean, early game 1.6 second stun, so very good job there, and that's the kind of Elise plays I want to see happen on Succubus.
This is exactly what we were talking about. Neku stood a little bit too far out into the lane, and then Succubus just took the initiative, went in, and as we saw there, Siren's Kiss just pretty much did a little bit of damage there, but it was really all Succubus with that gank, so very well to them, and they get early dragon control here with very early first dragon going over to the University of South Australia.
Yeah, it's a very, very strong play. I mean, dragons in their own right are very strong, but I mean, against something like a Shyvana jungle, you want to get those early dragons once you have the Devourer, just so you can get the 5 stacks and try to get that sated a lot earlier. So very good takeaway there, and also getting an objective after getting an early kill in the mid lane, knowing that Nesku on that Lissandra can't help and do much more after that. And actually Siren Kisses nearly stealing away the blue there, but quite a bit late on that. Not quite sure maybe miscommunication there, but now in actually a bad spot. Nuba Boo is actually going to catch him out. Siren Kiss, very good shockwave there, going to go away. Frost Tomb does go down, and Siren Kiss might actually go down. Actually a lot of pressure going down on the bot side of the map, and Siren Kiss is actually going to turn this on. Very interesting play. Nona Bruce actually left Siren's Kiss and thought Nescu actually had the kill, but Succubus here going to get the cocoon down and turned around. It's a beautiful double kill, sorry, there for Sirens, and Slazer and his team doing his best job at trying to hook across CJK, but beautifully sidestepped away, and I don't know what happened there. I mean, Nona Bruce actually left Siren Kiss there with Nescu and actually got solo killed out in the end.
Unfortunately, Nonabrus decided to go the wrong way, which was downwards to assist his bottom lane. So yes, unfortunately, Neku was caught out there by Siren's Kiss. Very nice props to Siren's Kiss there to turn around a 1v2 with a shockwave, and just an overall display of very good Orianna mechanics there. Something that we haven't talked about very much though, since the very first gank, is the top lane, because even though the UNISA Senpai is set behind, he's still up majorly in CS. So what's really going on with this top lane?
Yeah, I think it's because of the itemization on the side of Jim's God. I mean, he's opting for that early Frozen Heart from what I can tell. I mean, those are all components towards that Frozen Heart, and I would have preferred something like a Doran's Ring picked up, I mean, to add a little bit more pressure there. And although the early kill did go across to Jim God, not doing much, actually a gank coming across here, Nescu actually missing that Q, and Sarkis might turn this around again. Yeah, Sarkis picking up the kill and flashing away, might get away here, but the burn is going down, and the shutdown does go across to Nona Boost, something you don't want to have the kills on, and also picking up the Devourer, so getting a stack up there, but a very, very strong Siren Kiss here. I mean, 4-1 at this point.
Yeah, this is just super, super strong. This is not a position that you necessarily want to go into a mid-game fight in, you know, an Orianna with a lot of damage, nearly an Athene's Unholy Grail build here. I think that that these shockwaves in team fights are going to really hurt if Charles Darwin University position incorrectly. So, yeah, this is something super dangerous going into.
Yeah, shockwaves is actually something that's going to be really cautious of. I mean, Siren Kiss having most of the kills, actually all but one kill. Succubus looking towards the top lane, trying to get a gank. UNISA Senpai has a lot of CC2 offer, but Jim God does have that unstoppable force if he does need to use it, and he's going to walk out there. Two just rocks walking into each other and opting against it, but Siren Kiss is putting some damage down on Nescu here and actually showing him who's boss. Going to put that E away, but taking out to half health for almost nothing on the side of Siren Kiss.
Unfortunately, Succubus was in range for vision in top lane, so that's why the gank didn't go too smoothly, but now he's opting to just, I don't know, live in the enemy jungle, like we were talking about. No, maybe even a gank into mid lane, as he sees Neku stepping a little bit too far forward. Neku does read it though, so he manages to move back just in time.
It's up to Succubus to kind of stop Shyvana from easily getting these scuttles, easily getting her camps, because if you have a winning mid laner such as Siren's Kisses right now, actually a gank might go across to him. Nona Bruce actually getting pinged out, but Succubus actually in the position to counter gank, so very strong play here, and Glacial Tome actually going down, but Nona Bruce and Nescu actually going to go down possibly here. Nona Bruce taking out very low, but the Q actually going to go through here, flashed away beautifully. Succubus going into the back here, getting minion blocked, but going to live on a nick of health, and actually a kill going across to Slazer in the bot lane. Maybe a double kill onto Xenomorph, missing the Q, but Aurelia bot and Slazer might back off here. Actually can't get some turret hits and actually might die here. Flash and heal being burned on Aurelia bot, and maybe biting off more than they can chew right there.
Aurelia bot went a little bit too deep in the bot lane, but just really quickly, what I want to touch on here was the fight that happened in the mid lane. While it looked like both the junglers may have been just that little bit too late to the fight, what it actually was a series of 2 1v1s there, you know, where Siren's Kiss actually took down Neku before either of the junglers really got there, and then from there on in, it was a 2v1 against Nona Bruce, and by that point, it was just too late, and the fight was decided. But yeah, it was actually a series of 2 1v1s there, which was really interesting because of how fast Neku got bursted down.
Yeah, if Slazer could even get a one auto attack there onto Xenomorph, that would have been an easy kill. I mean, popping that W passive, doing so much damage, you just saw right there. CTK being taken out to half health with only 2 auto attacks, which is, you know, pretty ridiculous. But very good read there by Succubus, knowing that Nona Bruce is going to try to get Nescu back into this game, and read that encounter ganked beautifully. I mean, both junglers slightly late, but Siren Kiss definitely has the upper hand in this lane.
They most definitely do, but Something that I want to see more of in this game is definitely roaming from both of the supports. Wow, that is a lot of damage coming down from Succubus, already finishing off the Rune Glaive onto Elise, which is super strong this patch. But yeah, something that I definitely want to see a lot of this game that hasn't necessarily been happening is roaming from the bot lane supports, because both of them have so much CC to offer, especially in the mid lane with all of this burst. So interesting to see how this goes ahead if they take my advice.
Yeah, actually a very good takeaway on the blue, and so much damage you just saw from Sirens. Actually, the ult might be being popped, actually popping it slightly too late. You have useless Senpai here for the Chrome, using that ult kind of unnecessarily, but you know, got the kill nonetheless, and Dragon being up at the perfect time, so very good rotational play there by the side of Teabags, sorry, and yeah, very, very good. I mean,
the University of South Australia has got very nice shot calling, very nice timing, and they managed to pick up a second Dragon. If Charles Darwin University doesn't decide to make some big plays right now, it might spell out a very slow loss from them.
It's just a beautiful hook going across there by Slaz, and we're able to dive on Xenomorph. One of them Slaz is tanking it up on the back end, and very good tower aggro trading there. Slaz tanking out for his team so the dive can be successful, and just beautifully played there by the side of Tea Party, sorry. And yeah, they just done a lot of very good rotational plays, and the whole time Jim God has been in the top lane, not doing much. The TP going across by Useless Senpai, but not really needed in terms of saving that turret. I mean, they got so many kills and the Dragon off that rotational play by his team.
So if we take stock of what's happening right now, you know, we got 12 kills to 2 onto the side of South Australia, and we've got about a 4k gold lead, 4.5k gold lead onto them as well, as a nice hook comes out into the bot lane.
Oh, just...
and Nonobrews gets absolutely destroyed in that. You know, there was really no outplay, because all of the CC came down from Slazzer, and that was enough damage for Aurelia bot to take him down. All Nonobrews really had there was a Devourer and a Cutlass, so there wasn't really any tank onto that side, so very nice read by Slazzer to know how to engage.
Slazzer just the wizard on these hooks, just landing hook after hook after hook, and I mean, as you mentioned, Nonobrews not being able to do much. Succubus sitting in the bush, and there's a ward in there, so they do know he is there, so he's gonna have to back up here, but Useless Senpai having no opportunity to back here, but Siren Kiss here, Unstoppable Force going on to Siren Kiss, a beautiful Siren getting knocked up, and the flash away to safety by Jim God, so very well played there. But yeah, very good prediction there by you in terms of the itemization. I mean, we do see Useless Senpai opting for that Dead Man's Plate first item. What are your thoughts on the itemization?
Well, Nautilus
actually
needs to...
Oh! Going down the back end, actually a kill going down. CJK might be taken down here, and fights all over the map. Nisku going down again, double kill across to Siren Kiss. 9-on-4 on this Orianna so far. Playing it beautifully, and it's looking at a very dire situation for the side of Engineers right now.
I think that if any teams were to do their research right now, that they would definitely find, if you were going to the University of South Australia, you definitely need to ban out the Orianna, as a little bit of a scuffle happens in the top lane.
Yeah, Nonobrews actually going to go down and might dive Useless Senpai here. Stun going across and slightly on enough damage, might dive and trade it for a 1-for-1. Flash going across, but not knowing how much damage he would have took, and dying on the back end of that, so a 1-for-1, but Nonobrews having the Devourer, so maybe a slightly advantageous trade for him, trying to get to that stated Devourer as fast as possible, having that Cutlass, and only getting a Cutlass going with the Giant Spout, maybe going for that Randwin's Omen instead of finishing his Bork there. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, at the current moment, really, any sort of trade for Charles Darwin University would be advantageous. All they really need right now is to come back into the game, and 1v1 trades do that pretty well. As Siren's Kiss gets locked up under the turret, Neku survives with a sliver of health. But yeah, as we were saying, you know, they just need to do 1v1 trades. 1v1 trades would suit them very, very well, because it would just bring them back into the game very slowly. Sort of turn around the gold deficit percentage that we have here, as well as get a few shutdowns off, especially if they can get it on the Siren's Kiss. That's really what they need to be doing here, finding some 1v1s and maybe getting 1-for-1 trades.
But Succubus doing so much work on this Elise. I mean, he already has 30 magic pen, which is almost doing true damage to some of the characters of the side of Engineers. So I mean, you have to be very cautious of this Elise, doing so much damage already in this part of the game. Opting for that Haunting Guys, a slightly more damage-centric build to what we see, you know, in the tank elite builds. Even the Rylai's consistent to sidestone top. Actually gonna get pincered here by Nona Boost and Jim God. A lot of damage going across, but gonna repel over to the Krugs and actually some stuff going down the bot lane. Aurelia bot gonna do his best to disengage this moment here. Faith call in. Might actually go back in, but a lot of life still onto that Bloodthirst and actually getting taken down by Xenomorph there with the buckshot. Beautifully played, and actually we see Succubus getting taken down as well. He thought he got away, but UNISA Senpai might die for trying to help him. The Aurelia protectors there, and a lot of damage. Maybe a triple kill going down here by Siren's Kiss. So much damage on Siren's Kiss. The protect, and also actually Siren Kiss actually being taken down extremely fast. That Shyvana doing so much damage, and this game is just a bloodbath. There's kills going across the map, and engineers have decided they want to fight back now.
Kills are happening left, right, and center. This is the team fight that we were talking about. You know, the really all-in 100-0. We don't really have any escape sort of mechanism, especially with the Malphite. And as we saw just then, it really plays out so well for them because they all super dived and they managed to get a pretty good trade, I'd say, coming out of that. So if they could do a few more of these, that might be the winning formula.
And actually a dive might come here from Slaza, and not gonna be able to do much. It's gonna play away, but gonna get chewed there by Nescu. But have they bitten more than they can chew? Gonna go try to get Nona Boost here from the back end. If they do, actually a very good TP play there by UNISA Senpai, and maybe 3 kills for what seemed like a 1-for-0 there. And actually CJK gonna put the Glacial Fissure down and run away, but very, very good counterplay there by the side of Tea Party. And actually dive might come across. UNISA Senpai gonna tank this up. So tanky at this point. Repel onto CJK, and so much damage on that Elise. Triple kill to Elise in that fight.
CJK walked the wrong way, walked backwards, and unfortunately that was an easy execute for Succubus. Obviously that's how Elise's Q in spider form works. So you know, picking up yet another kill, and this is really University of South Australia's height of their team comp. You know, really sort of making the picks in this game, finding people and hard CCing them, and then just taking them down one by one systematically, as opposed to Charles Darwin's team's sort of motto with all-in team fight 100-0 AOE.
Yeah, maybe you could shed some light on this. I'm quite confused in terms of what Aurelia is opting for her itemization. I mean, she has the Bloodthirster, hasn't finished her boots, and is going for another big rod. Actually, the fight going down here on Xenomorph. Xenomorph getting popped. I mean, essentially a rock in a hard place. 4 members to the side of Tea Party there. But yeah, as I was mentioning, what do you reckon this second BF sword is going to build into maybe an Infinity Edge? I mean, it's kind of weird to see that itemization on Aurelia bot on that Callista and the drain being taken away. But yeah, what do you thought on itemization on Aurelia bot?
Maybe. I don't think that it will be an Infinity Edge, because like we were talking about earlier in Champion Select, Callista's not really a crit champion. I mean, she can, and there have been some Callistas that have built Infinity Edge with Fandom Dancer, and you can make it work because of the mobility that Callista has. But I think, if anything, then Aurelia bot would really want to build this into a QSS into a Makiro Scimitar, because that would really help with all of the hard CC that we see, especially from Neku, because Neku has just a point and click done on her ultimate, and CJK can just follow that up with his passive. I think that a QSS into a Makiro would be the right way to go.
Yeah, very aggressive play by Aurelia bot. Gonna go down to Xenomorph, gonna try to get some damage down, gonna read quite early, not to kill, and Siren Kiss, beautiful, she's getting taken away there, but very nice. A double force there. Jim God actually might be taken down. Succubus looking for a kill. Very hungry for blood. And the Glacial Fish going down, hitting Succubus. Siren Kiss wants to take him down on the backside. And Xenomorph getting taken down as well. And CJK gonna get snowed again. Another triple kill goes down to Succubus. And doing so much, actually a quadra kill. I mean, doing so much damage on this Elise already in this part of the game. I mean, that's so much damage there. And I don't know what engineers can do at this point of the game to try, you know, bring it back. I mean, what can they do at this point?
If you take a look at the build of Succubus right now, this is pretty much the height of his damage, you know? You're going to really be able to 100 people with your whole spell rotation at this point. So he's really using it to his advantage. Unfortunately, we see Neku leaving the game. We will have to check in to see what that deal is about. But Slaza playing Ring Around the Rosie with Nonaboo's, and he manages to escape with that. So,
yeah,
so
might be a rage quit there.
Ooh, a rage quit.
I mean, I'm not having the best game of his life today. I mean, like 1-9, but still, I mean, at least surrender with the team. I'm not quite sure what the issue there, maybe a disconnection, but not quite sure. But yeah, as you mentioned, height of her damage on the Elise, doing so much damage in the last fight, shooting through the tanks and squishies alike, so it's very hard for the side of Engineers to kind of claw back from the deficit that they have. I mean, down 10k gold already, and gold on the right people, I have to say, in terms of Siren Kiss, and also gold on Aurelia bot.
Oh, yeah, unfortunately, there's no pause coming out from the side of Charles. Oh, as I say it, the caster curse, a pause comes out from the side of Charles Darwin University. So hopefully, Neku will reconnect. Let's just take stock of just the gold distribution at this point, because if we take a look at this, it's just so much gold is onto the Elise and onto the Oriana on the side of University of South Australia. So obviously, you know, I think the no-brainer solution at the current moment is to stack on the side of Charles Darwin University. What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, they have to try give these team fights across, try to be 5 and make picks. I mean, even though it's kind of counterintuitive to their team comp, they try to want to go for 5v5s. They're so far behind right now that one good shockwave placed properly, coupled with a dissonance, is going to do so much damage to the likes of Xenomorph and Neku. But yeah, actually we see Aurelia bot opting for that Infinity Edge, what seems like, which is not what I'd like to see. I mean, if you're going for a build that's going to counter Neku on this Lissandra, sorry, I'd rather see Lazar build Mikhail's Crucible and Aurelia bot go for that Runar's Hurricane, but obviously not a fan of that build, gonna do his own off-meta thing. So, how do you feel about that? I'm not quite sure how to feel about that.
Well, we are coming back into the game right now, but yeah, I think that especially with the changes onto Kallista's passive, you definitely do want to favor at the very least a little bit of attack speed. And besides boots, Aurelia bot hasn't really built that yet. Like Nonabu's just getting taken down completely by Siren's Kiss there. That was just 100-0 pretty much. Yeah,
Siren's Kiss just walking into the jungle and showing who's boss. I mean, solo killing Nonabu's in her own jungle on the Shyvana. I mean, usually we'll see a lot of Shyvanas and a lot of pressure actually helping her across onto CDK, and also coupled with Coon, and CDK might be taken down here, can walk away with it, and Siren Kiss is getting taken up quite low by Xenomorph, but can walk away there safely, protect herself with that shield, and continue to siege into the mid lane turret. But the bot lane of Tea Party, and not heading towards the mid lane to help the siege, so we'll see what happens here. Siren Kiss and Succubus trying to do some poke, hook, the Dreadline, sorry, going slightly to the left, and gonna continue the siege in the mid lane, but Jimgod is here, and so much damage with that attack and dissonance by Siren Kiss. A very good very good support. Actually, the Glacial Tomb gonna go down onto Siren Kiss. Siren Kiss gonna walk away, maybe has that tech shield, and I don't know if it's much seen right here, gonna have to use Dragon Form, but doesn't Dragon Form at all. So he's taken down on the back end of that fight too. Succubus stuck with CJK in the face, might kill him just as he can, and he's going to do a lot of damage to take the Lantern out. So very, very good rotational play there by the side of Tea Party, and just goes to show how far behind Engineers are in the game so far.
That was just so systematic in the way that the University of South Australia's team, the Tea Party, really took this, and they managed to just get essentially Xenomorph down super fast, which takes the ADC out of the team fight. And when you do that, it's almost guaranteed that you're going to win, especially with the lead that they have. And with a lead like this, it's going to be really hard for the Engineers from Charles Darwin University to come back.
Yeah, we actually see Nonabu going for that. One of the newer items, Sterex Gauge, and actually a 5 must go down in the bot lane, gonna opposite fate to pull out and the Lancing down for Aurelia bot if he does choose, but Succubus is there, actually popping Xenomorph there, and actually is gonna be in the front line. Succubus might be taken down here, but it's 3v5 right now. The Glacial Prism goes down, and a very strong play there by Neku and his team, catching out Succubus, getting the shutdown, which is gonna be a lot of gold onto the right people, and very strong play there. To try and get a slight advantage back by the side of Engineers, doing what they can. And a Dragon actually be spawning in 40 seconds, gonna look towards that objective, and maybe Baron soon, just so they can end this game as fast as possible.
So once again, the Tea Party have just got amazing shot calling and amazing timing, coming into this next dragon, which they will pick up yet again, hopefully. I mean, it hasn't happened yet, but as history dictates, it's something that's very likely to happen. That's going to be 4 dragons, and it could potentially be a Baron. This is a very systematic way to play when you're ahead, especially from the Tea Party.
Exactly. I mean, you get 5 dragons. That's so much pressure on the map. You do so much damage in the team fights. I mean, 5th dragon coupled with the leads they already have is going to do so much work, especially on Succubus. Succubus is finding Nova, who's getting a double shockwave, and might take CGK down here, so he's going to get the hook across, and Nova's going to Dragon's Form out of there. But Senpai actually might get Xenomorph here, looking towards getting this sneaky Graves, but the hook by Slazzer, very good flash hook, and Siren's Kiss going to last hit that with an auto attack, and it's almost a nail in the coffin right now. I mean, there's so little that Jim's not getting dove here, but Senpai's so tanky and Siren's doing so much damage. I mean, no one's got the force, and you Senpai going to keep tanking it up. Maybe going to die here, but living slightly, and I mean, they're running around the base of Engineers, showing no respect and getting away with it essentially. I mean, they do so much damage right now, and they're so ahead.
They're doing so much damage, and they're sort of running around the base, but all of that was happening as a 3v5. 2 of the members, as the jungler and the ADC, were actually in Dragon Pit taking Dragon. So that just shows how far ahead the Tea Party really are.
The correct play here would be to, I feel, to de-ward the Baron area, assuming that the side of CJK and his team can get some ward down there. But if they can unclear the wards that are around Baron that actually aren't there, because actually the shotwave going down and popping Xehanort, oh sorry, not Xehanort, Xenomorph, sorry. So much damage on that Aurelia in the hands of Siren Kiss, and they might have to concede this turn. I mean, there's so much they can do. And it's like going with the Gym God, popping their tank, and might actually kill him with a Q here, and very, very nice play by Succubus, and gonna get CJK for his troubles as well. So very, very strong play there by Succubus, doing so much damage with this full AP elite. I mean, the only tank item really is the Rylai's, and you could also count the Leandries, but there's so much damage in the GG calls are coming out. So game 1 goes across to Tea Party.
Like we said, the real motto of this game was systematic, and every single play that the Tea Party brought out here in this game was just that, systematic. They managed to just take every single objective. The ganks were on point by Succubus, and they just played their team comp perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really up to the side of Engineers to kind of take a look at that game and see what they can do, what they can improve on for the games to follow and for the rest of the day if they were to play again. And yeah, just a very, very strong showing by the side of Tea Party. Definitely a contender for today's games, and very excited to see where they end up in today, and hopefully we shall cast another game with them. But it's me, Poon here, and Shadow Warrior, and we'll see you guys in the next game. That should start in roughly 10 minutes, so see you guys then.